Y'all are in for a treat today. Welcome to another episode of the Surf and Sales Summit. I think we have met our proverbial match, Richard, in terms of wit, sarcasm, snark, humor, and general borderline inappropriateness. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Scott Leese, one of your two co-hosts for the Surf and Sales podcast and co-founder of the Surf and Sales Summit, here with my good friend and partner, Richard Harris. What's going on, man? How's the weather in Moraga today? Not Orinda, Moraga.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. I can see the golf course. You've been to my house. I'm going to go
Yeah.
play a little bit later.
Yeah,
Because
I am
I
too,
can do
actually.
that. So,
I am too,
uh,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
but how much better is it where you are than in Walnut Creek right now?
always better here. There's
Yeah.
no traffic, it's always better than Walnut Creek in
Yeah.
my
The
opinion.
way I think about Moraga versus Walnut Creek is if you took all the most snobby people of Walnut Creek and just moved them like 3 miles down the road, they'd live in Moraga. That's
This is
basically
Okay.
true.
what I think about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that right?
because
Okay.
probably, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
we're gonna
so.
welcome our guest who is currently living and residing in Walnut Creek, California, hence these jokes. Her name is Katie Chatterton. She's the Global Director of Sales Enablement at AirSlate. Welcome to the show, Katie.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Any rebuttal to the Walnut Creek Moraga
No,
discussion
the
that you
only
wanna
the
let
only
know?
thing you missed about Moraga and Orinda and La Morinda and all the ways they JLo their names together
Yeah.
and benefit is the college kids, because you got to take all
True,
those
true.
all those folks that you
Yeah.
mentioned. I didn't say it. Scott said it.
Yeah.
But you
I
got to
said
add
it.
in all the St. Mary's kids, all the collegiates.
True. I forget about them actually.
Yeah.
I often forget that they're in there somewhere.
Because
Well, tell every
they need caddies at Richard's golf course and also lifeguards at the pool.
that's the only reason they built the school there, for sure. For sure. Tell everybody about your role, who you are, and what you do, so they have some
Oh
context for
man.
this.
I know these are the things I should have come prepared with, but I'm Katie. That in itself is such a big definition, and I think that is why maybe we've met each other's proverbial match on inappropriateness and snark and sass, because Katie's come with fire. But I've been working at AirSlate for the last 3 years. I've been in sales for almost 20 years. Have a big fancy degree in marketing and strategic management that I like to pull out of my pocket every once in a while, especially in use for sales and sales enablement. And I am here helping run a team of sales reps, do two different things. We have a big strategic sales kind of initiative and a big transactional side of our business as well. So, split focus, split personality, multiple personalities, you name it. That's what we're
My
doing here.
my favorite thing about your background is the couple of years you spent working in um, I don't even know what you call it, the club soccer industry,
Right?
doing marketing and all that, Walnut Creek
Yeah.
surf and everything like that. If any parent is listening and has participated in any element of youth sports, any sport along the way, one of the consistent things you hear is, if only this place was run like a proper business. Over and over and over across sports, you hear this. So tell me one funny story about your experience
Oh
working inside
man.
of this select soccer club.
So Walnut Creek Soccer Club has a really, really wonderful history of being run by parents. And so many times probably that statement was made by many parents on any given year. And a good friend of mine took over the club and became the general manager. And he's been in and out of the business world. He's bought and sold companies and trust him dearly. And he wanted to run it like a business. So he brought me on to help all the functions of the business, from HR and getting things straightened out with coaches and really coaches enablement and making them better coaches. But also the back end stuff of registration and marketing and getting out regular cadence of updates
Yeah.
and communication. So I don't know if that's funny, but what were the funny things
Well,
that
Did
happened?
did people
Actually,
hate
it's
yeah,
it?
yeah,
funny.
yeah.
No,
Here it is. Here's
no.
the funniest thing that happened to me is they said, "Hey Katie, you just built our entire CRM and website and these like insanely automated registration things. Clearly you can play on our futsal league over at Copa. And I'm like, yeah, clearly those two skill sets match each other. And so I showed up to play indoor soccer, which is like shortened field, little tiny ball, with one of the greatest legends of the sport, Cici Diamor from Brazil. She's a World Cup champion.
Yeah,
She's a Golden
I know
Boot
exactly who
winner,
she is. I played with
1999.
her. I played on the same team as her when I was in the Bay Area. I swear to God.
Well,
I'm
so
100%. I
did I.
swear to God. Yes.
Who knew we had this in common?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here's the brilliance of me. I showed up with like tennis shoes, thinking like, oh, we'll probably take our shoes off, or I don't know. I've never played futsal before. My background's in gymnastics. Why am I playing futsal?
I can't.
And so Cece, being the sweetheart that she was, she said, what size do you wear? And I said, size 8. And she said, me too. Here's my shoes. And I got to put the shoes of
Wow.
a legend on and play this game I'd never played before. She obviously, reigned throughout the court and field, whatever it's called, and took total control of it, passed me the ball. I got to score with her left boot, which was her golden boot foot and her golden boot shoe. They weren't the same shoes. It's like 20 years later.
Oh my goodness. So
And
great.
I was praised a hero for scoring that goal. And I'm like, I
Well
swear
done.
she kicked it into my foot to get herself
Hey,
the assist. She could have just
you
scored
get the
goal.
credit for it though. You get the credit for
I'll
it.
take the goal.
You get the credit for it. That's awesome. What a small world. Yeah, I used to play on this co-ed team in the Bay Area, and Cece was on the team, and her friend Tafa, who was also
Yeah.
from Brazil, who maybe
Tafa was my kid's
you know
coach for a
ago.
while.
There you go.
We
See,
runs a
small
tight
world.
ship, man.
Small world. We went undefeated, by the way, in like I think we played on the same team for 3+
Yeah.
years.
Because with
6 different
11 on the
seasons.
field, you just put 9 other people there and let Cece and Tafa run the game. And they use you like little foosball pegs. I don't know. Maybe you were good at soccer.
Scott was good. I'll defend him. He was good.
Speechless. Speechless.
That,
Give us
that was
give us
my
your
strategic
this
contribution
strategic
to the
dig.
game.
Strategic dig. Scott, you were just there. Yeah. Give us your definition of enablement. You use that word as it pertains to being inside the SARC club, but you also are in that role at Air Slate. Here's my problem / challenge is everybody uses this word enablement differently, and it means different things to different people at different companies. What does it mean to you?
Agreed. I have the same problem and the same challenge. And I think that great enablement practitioners actually can use that kind of ambiguity to their advantage. But at the root of it, at the foundation, to me, it means making people around me better, right? So I even have a little necklace on that says coach. I wear it on big presentations and big teaching days because I want people to remember, like, I'm here to be your coach. I'm here to assist you. I'm here to give you back the ball, to show you the strategy, to pull you off the field, right? To give you that magical left boot or whatever it's going to take for you as an individual. And to make the sellers better in sales enablement, right? In every other capacity I've worked in, it's making everybody around me better, making ops better, making marketing better, making some dumb process that nobody wants to deal with better. And so
Define that. What's one dumb process better that got better? Like seriously, because I think we all have them. Like I think we've all got a process that we're like, oh, I hate this. I don't want to make it better. I don't want to spend time to make it better. But then what was on the other side? Like, do you have an example?
I have an example from Air Slate, not as funny as the Walnut Creek Surf Soccer Club example. That'll go down in surf and sales history. Also, yeah, your podcast is surf and sales, so we got to talk about Walnut Creek Surf. I'm glad we got that in there. When I joined Air Slate, we had no product marketing function. And we'd see a lot of importance on having sales and marketing really tightly aligned. And our marketing team is fast, it's dynamic, they're cranking, they don't slow down for Christmas, for Easter, for nothing. They just move. And sales was sort of on the receiving end of that for a while. So one dumb process we put together was collaborating on a shared document about what the campaign was, why we were going to do it, who would be involved, what the lead source detail in Salesforce would be, how that impacted sales ops, what the deliverable dates were. This feels like a little bit basic, probably, in terms of, go to market and pushing a campaign out. But at AirSlate, even at the size that we are, without that real connection between product marketing and sales on the execution level, we were missing all of that. So sales reps would learn from a prospect in the middle of a call what campaign they were a part of or what test they had seen on our website, which was insane. And so those are the kinds of processes to be able to step back from sales, not be tied to that quota necessarily, and be able to say, hey, this is a better process for everybody. This is going to help everyone be more efficient, push through more clearly, understand who we're talking to, why we're talking to them, all of those things.
All right, I got to follow up on this.
Sure.
So you notice this, and by the way, is your team considered enablement or sales enablement?
Sales enablement.
Okay. So you see this hole between sales and marketing.
Right.
Was there territorial battles, right? Was it the blacks versus the greens in a battle
between the sales and marketing
of who's going to control this process that you're creating or improving?
Yeah.
Right. Or was everybody like, oh my God, thank God someone finally did it, because we've all wanted it?
A little bit of both. I think I had to step in and be that director and say, hey, here's how this production is going to run. Here's the vision. Here's what it takes. Here's each person's role. And let's do it together a few times. I was very, very excited, actually, the day marketing took that back from me. I was like, thank you. This belongs to you. You can have it back. Here's the template. And then I became very, very close with our, I actually don't even know what her title was at the time, but the marketing guru who took that on. So we said for a long time that handshake between marketing and sales really lived between the two of us, and we tried to grip on and stay as tight as we could.
I want to ask questions about compensation strategies for enablement. I work with a lot of founders and VPs of sales and CROs, and one of the questions that I'm tasked with answering for them and helping them craft all the time are different comp plan structures for people in the enablement roles. So two-part question. The first one is, let's say somebody out here listening is a CRO or a founder, and they're trying to budget out, how much do I need to pay somebody in this sales enablement world in terms of a salary and OTE and that kind of thing. And the second question would be, where am I kind of bonusing somebody? What is their actual KPI? Is it based on revenue? Is it based on pipeline? Is it based on speed to ramp? Whatever the heck the thing is. So can you give us your thoughts in this arena for me?
Yeah, I probably have some unpopular opinions here. And so
even better.
I was hoping that we could really market this to sales enablement folks and, enhance the profession and all of that. But my simple answer is pay them as much as you can, right? They're a critical part of your team. And no offense to the VPs and the CROs out there, but if you can't do the function, then you've got to pay for the function to happen, right? And one of the biggest parts is that kind of connective tissue and glue that are things unseen that aren't ever going to show up in a KPI. How do you measure? I mean, I guess you can measure attrition, right? 0 people left in 24 months. That's a really big deal.
Huge. That would be almost unheard of, actually.
Oh, well, now you've heard of it. The other things that are, they're tasked with enablement, and I don't necessarily think that this is why it's unpopular. In sales enablement, revenue enablement, people want to say, hey, follow these metrics, right? Hit this metric, hit this onboarding time, reduce this ramp time and everything else. But there is a really understated quality of connecting the team, meeting people where they are, being that almost loyal golden retriever type to your sales leadership to make sure the salespeople know, hey, they're working on stuff in the background. You're going to be okay. For now, keep your focus here. And those are the immeasurable things that I absolutely love to do. But it gets me in trouble because I don't like to just, put my head down into an Excel spreadsheet and work on like, how can I get the time to ramp from 4.6 weeks to
Yeah.
4.2 weeks, and what are all the
Unfortunately,
qualities that impact that?
but unfortunately, though, those are the things
I
that
know.
CROs and CEOs are evaluated on by board members, investors, all that kind of stuff. So let me push you and say, okay, so I'm trying to budget for this role. I want to pay them as much as I can, but what should I realistically be budgeting? Are we talking about 50K, 100K, 200K? Like, what is realistic? You're starting a company, or you run a company right now, some fancy software company. You're off to a good start. Richard is the CRO. He's like, I need enablement help. What are you budgeting for the role?
I think I see a lot of specialists and kind of independent contributors in sales enablement starting in that 70 to 100,000 range,
Okay.
even up to 120 if you're in the Bay Area, of course.
And are you putting all of that compensation in their salary, or are you bonusing them? And if so, what are you bonusing them
No.
on?
I see some 80-20 split or some 75-25 similar to
Okay. So
other
what are we
leaders.
bonusing? What are we bonusing this person on then?
The total number, the total success.
As measured and determined by what?
Dollars.
So if sales team hits revenue target, then enablement person hits their bonus.
Right.
Okay. What
I
do you think
think
about
that
that, Richard?
Well, I was just wondering the same thing. I'm like, I mean, first of all, it's simple. It makes sense. It creates stronger alignment between sales and the team. It certainly creates that buy-in of like, for the grumpy Gus's on the sales team, if they understand that Katie's compensated on the team hitting the number and not how many dials she's trying to track for you, and that shit doesn't matter in her comp plan. I think that, I mean, it's culturally, that's the best answer I think I've ever heard, and the right answer. So I have a follow-up question, but I don't want to derail the conversation yet, Scott. So I didn't know if you had something.
No. I'm just curious. Go ahead. Ask your question.
So one, as you came up with that Bay Area salary, did you inflate it by about 10 or 15% so that you can go get a raise for 2025? Just checking. And then, the real question behind that though is you kept it simple, right? I'm comped on the same thing. The VP of sales, the CRO, the CEO, the sales team, everybody's comped on the same fucking number. What do you do when you get that CRO or CEO who's so overly metrics driven because that's all they know? That's all they've been taught. That's all, and it could be their fault. It could be that that's just what they've been taught to do all these years, right?
Yeah.
How do you have that conversation? Because what you're suggesting is not what I see as the norm. So how do you reframe that conversation to get their level of buy-in? And to follow that up, make sure they don't go, okay, well, Katie, we'll give you 40% based on total comp, but we want 60% to be based on this or this or this.
I generally don't have a problem if they're gonna split that bonus into metrics and into things to achieve. Just like we know in sales rep comp too, where the money is where the people behave. And I've been breaking rules very consciously since I was about 4 years old. And I remember in preschool going, this is a nice set of rules. Let me see how I can maneuver my way around them. Mrs. I don't remember her name, Smith. And so I think where do you want people's focus? Do you want people focusing on how to manipulate the system and get the most comp out of a system, or do you want them selling? And do you want them impacting the sellers? And so for sales enablement, I think the more simple, it's such a complicated and diverse role. We already talked, Scott, about how there's so many definitions. Where do you want to put people's focus? Right? Do you want them focusing on a bunch of spreadsheets and like keeping spreadsheets for the sake of keeping spreadsheets? and manipulating and playing with those numbers, or do you want them getting the job done? And I appreciate your recognition that it's a great answer and a simple one. And I give my, couple former VPs really great credit for that. But what you said about aligning the function to the VP's goals and roles and OKRs and everything else, I think that's the key. Because what I've seen that enable me to do is move from SDRs to AEs to CSMs and back over to product marketing, back into AEs, depending on what's needed in the business. And so if we have a huge push on content management, but we don't have strong leadership in marketing, and enablement needs to take that on, my number doesn't suffer for what the business actually needs, right? Because if it did, I wouldn't be excited about doing it. I might not do as great of a job. I might not set it up to be sort of a legacy solution that people can use for many years. I might just do the bare minimum and then get back to measuring how many people scored each other's gong calls. You can tell how excited I am about that metric. It's it puts enablement into like a babysitting role at that point, right? And I think if you have a strategic coach who's in there like building culture, building motivation, getting people excited about what they're doing, but also teaching product, teaching process, teaching this kind of team camaraderie, like why stick baby in a corner, right? Why stick her in a spreadsheet?
Are there new tools or maybe even tools that have been around for a while that you're a big fan of to assist in the enablement process?
I am obsessed with tools like nobody else.
All right, well, give us two of your favorites.
Without knowing that,
God, you know how much this means to
you
me.
hit us.
You know how much I like this.
I know that's why I only asked for two.
My one of my previous
reasonable.
VPs, he called me like a pet cat that used to bring shiny things to the doorstep every morning. Try this.
The analogy rings true. So give me two of your favorites.
Two of my favorites right now. There's an
newer kind of tools.
There's an up and comer called Pro Short. I've been working with their founding team for a few months on developing. They started as this kind of like TikTok delivery for sales reps, right? So in enablement, I can select my cohort and I can deliver 1 to 2 minute little courses that they can scroll through. They've got to see it. They've got to watch the whole reel or story or whatever you want to call it before they can move on. If they don't watch the whole thing, it comes back up. So it's kind of like forced enablement that I don't have to track, which I love. But they've built in courses, they've built in quizzing, they have an incredible discourse engine in their LLM that is allowing AI to summarize calls I've never seen anything like it, honestly. And we use Gong, we use their summaries, we use their notes and tips and follow-ups and all of that. But in comparison, I think they people are doing more. I'll just say that.
Go ahead, Richard.
No, I was just curious, does the sales team or whichever team you're sending content to, do they prefer it in that format, right? Like it makes sense, right? Generationally is, or is it just one more thing, or is it, well, it's still got a new car smell, or no, people like it.
For today, it's one more thing. And I'll be really honest about that because it's not integrated into their daily workflow, what's expected of them. It's one more way to get enablement delivered. And that's something enablement is always fiddling with as well, is like, what's the best way to deliver this info? What's the most effective way? What's not going to irritate our sellers?
Have you figured that out? Have you figured out what's not going to irritate the sellers?
The best I can figure is that we all suffer from extreme ADD, whether we admit it or not, and to give them as much variety as possible has been what I found to be best. So this week it's a role play. Next week it's a quick read and respond. The week after that they have to present something. The week after that they're in the product, doing something and not telling anyone about it, even though we find out later if they did it or not.
That's always been the case for people who are really focused on teaching and helping. You always have to mix things up.
I agree.
You have to mix things up in how you practice, how you test for different things, how you train people on different things. You even have to mix up contests that you do and prizes that you give away. You can't just do the same things over and over. It just becomes stale, no matter what.
I agree with that. I could write an incredible 12-month plan, and then 12 months from now, it would need to be rewritten and just re-upped for, technology changes, people change, teams change, roles change. So your former SDR crew is now AEs, and now you take all the AE content and you have to adjust it a little bit. So yeah, there's so much variety. It keeps me in the game.
Well, Katie, hey, this thing's flown by in feels like 5 minutes. So I hate that we have to sort of do this, but I got to do a quick little ad roll for our new sponsor. But when we get back for that, we certainly want to turn it over to you and let you ask us some questions. And we'll go from that. So Surf and Sales podcast is sponsored by Tech Sales Accelerator. Launch your six-figure tech sales career at a company you love. Visit tsa.com for more info. Scott, how did I sound? Overly robotic? Do I need to?
No, your delivery was flawless.
As
Absolutely
always.
Flawless.
So, because maybe I should go there and see if I could learn that skill of delivering ad rolls better. But seriously, please, thank you to Tech Sales Accelerator, and go check them out at tsa.com.
We're gonna have to work on your teleprompter skills. You're sounding a little bit like our current politicians.
Well, that's because right now I still have this horrible voice from my lovely procedure 2 weeks ago, Scott. So
it's called senioritis.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. So Katie, back to you, the more important, more fun part of the conversation. What questions do you have for us? And can you stump Scott? Can you ask a question that Scott doesn't know the answer to?
That's not hard.
Seriously though, no, we always turn it over to you. What questions can we ask for you? We appreciate you coming on here and sharing your knowledge and wisdom with everybody. So how can we help you?
Here we go. What is Tafa's full name, Scott?
Oh my gosh.
You brought her up.
Yeah. Toffarel, or something like that.
Toffarel, that's right. Marcia.
Yeah. Marcia Toffarel, I think. Yeah. I'd have to look at I see her numbers in my phone still. I'd have to look at it. Yeah.
That's so awesome. We'll group text later and maybe hang out next time you're in the Bay Area. Scott, I would love to pick your brain, and Richard's too, on why enablement became its own specialty. So I don't know, some people consider this 10 years ago, other people 15 or 20. Who used to do this job in a sales org?
Well, we used to do it. We meaning sales leaders, sales managers, sales directors, VPs of sales. It was all us. The same way it was all us doing rev ops and sales ops stuff. So that role did not exist. There was no such thing as an enablement person or a rev ops sales ops person 20 years ago.
Right.
When I was getting started. Why it got carved out, I'm not exactly sure how to answer that. For one, it's not our main skill set on the operations side in particular. Like, that is not my skill set to dig into HubSpot and Salesforce and build reports and manage workflows and do all that stuff. So I don't have the time to do all that. I don't have the interest in doing it, nor do I have the expertise. So that one felt like pretty easy to carve out. The enablement piece, which to me is like foundationally coaching, training, all this kind of thing, assisting people, removing blockers out of people's way, continuing education kind of stuff. I truly don't know. And respectfully to the profession of enablement, I still think like a lot of shitty sales leaders got their rocks off by delegating enablement onto somebody else so they don't have to do it anymore. And all of a sudden, now there's $120,000 new person in the budget driving customer acquisition costs up. So I really don't know. I think it's a shame. I think that another answer could potentially be, if you spun it this way, like, we realize how important enablement is, and we realize how stretched thin sales leaders are. And we figured out, like, let's take this one thing off their plate. Let's put somebody over there who focuses only on this, and we'll get increased performance because of it. I'm not entirely convinced that that is what has happened, however. But that's my hypothesis. What do you think, Richard?
I think your hypothesis is correct. I think that particularly in the Bay Area, right? And as tech got up to date, everything progressed very quickly in the tech side. And I don't know that I could credit Aaron Ross for this, but I remember when he first wrote Predictable Revenue and I read it, he had this statement somewhere in the book that says, if someone's spending 20 or 25% of their time doing something that's actually hurting them from doing what else they should be doing, then you need to redefine that role and put someone in that role. And that was sort of a philosophy of his around the SDR role. This is 2010, 2011 piece, right? Like, so sort of through Salesforce. So I think that's where it became understood in the startup world. On the flip side, I think we've all worked with old school. Look, I've worked with American Express and Visa and, very big old school Fortune companies. This stuff existed, right, already. Like, it's not like enablement just came along in the last 10 or 15 years. They knew this. The startup world had to go through our own growing pains, right? Just like everybody else. And as always, if you follow the traditional, what is the book, Stay Lean or whatever, for as long as possible and all that stuff, the goal of startups is to pile as much shit onto as many people who will tolerate it for as long as they will tolerate it, until you have the realization that, wow, you should have someone else doing that, so that you can put more shit on the person you just were shitting on in the first place, right? So it's like, but we had to go through our own growing pains. So I think you're spot on. I think in the worlds that we swim in the most, I'm sure it existed before Aaron came along and figured that stuff out. But because you had, look, Google started in the mid 2000s, they had to figure this stuff out. And engineers are metrics driven anyway. So they probably had certain ways to do this metrically. Google's not great at sales, as we all know, in terms of like running sales teams and all that stuff. But so it's existed. I just think it became popularized in the last 10 or 15 years because it is something where you feel like you can pull the trigger and try to get more done. However, it's also the first thing that gets cut. When revenue's down, what gets cut? Enablement. Right. Because now we'll just have the managers do it because they were so good at it before. Right. So it's my long-winded answer.
That's not the part I wanted to hear.
But I mean, I think people like you and Roderick Jefferson, like there's a lot of you out there that are very well known in the marketplace who get it. I just think that's the reality of what happens. And, I know you well enough to know that you've baked yourself so in that they would be like, we can't let go of Katie. Like it wouldn't be.
I hope so. I hope so. Well, that's on my mind a lot, as I look at what's next in my career. Do I want to go to a bigger company? Do I want to, run a larger team of enablement and organize these things on a better scale? Or is this my in to becoming a VP of sales and having that number and having that pressure and
have
that
you ever
excitement?
seen have you ever seen somebody running enablement become a VP of sales?
That would be a better question for you, my friend.
I never have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not possible or it doesn't make sense. I'm just saying I have never seen that as of right now. Somebody taking a track through enablement and becoming a VP of sales.
You might have just given me that ultimate challenge. Like, that snarky 4-year-old who people are like, you cannot
Yeah.
do this. This is against the rules. And I
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
just be strategizing around this right now.
Yeah. That would be super interesting to see that take shape.
Yeah,
For
I
sure.
mean, if you take the history that you gave us and said that sales leaders used to do this role, like what is holding back enablement from getting in there, right?
Katie, have you
Maybe
been a
it's
sales leader?
maybe,
Have you run a sales team?
I have. That's where I started my career accidentally.
So what have you done? Have you been an SDR, an AE director? Like, what have you done? Just
So I worked for AT&T during the years when they sold their wireless division to Singular, and then a
wow.
year later bought it back. And it
I remember
created
that.
this real conundrum on plans, right? So I ran a sales team that what we were supposed to do was stand in the store and wait for people to, get their Starbucks and then visit the AT&T store next door and buy a new phone or upgrade a plan. What we did was go through our company records, call people, let them know that the plans had changed, that they were better, that they would actually get 2,000 text messages for $9.99 a month instead of 20 for $4.99. And it was the easiest money we ever made. We just called people like outbound sales, like crazy. Got their
Gen Z is
zip
going, what do you
code,
mean they charge you
ran
for
them
text
through.
messages?
I know. Gen Alpha's like, do you still even use text messaging? And we cranked. Our store went from like 64th in the company to 3rd. We were only behind the 2 stores that were mistaken for corporate stores in their market. And we had the CEO in our store going, "What are you doing?" And we're like, "We're calling. We're getting people on the phones. We're giving them better deals, better prices." And then guess what happened when Singular sold back? We got them right back on the phone. And so we made more money that year than anybody should have. And I was like, maybe I have a knack for this. I should go get an education. And I went and got my master's in business. So that's what inspired that, was running my sales
I wish
team of
we I wish we
19 and
start I
20
wish
year
we
olds.
started with that, because I want to analyze the thinking of somebody who's making more money than they've ever seen before, who decides to stop making money and
And
go
go
to
get an
fucking
MBA.
school and spend money. So what? So you could get a job that you're already doing and doing well?
I mean, maybe we should have had that
That's a whole other
conversation back
conversation. That's why I
then.
said we should have started this conversation with that right there.
Oh
Well,
my
we
gosh.
appreciate you spending time with us today on the Surf and Sales podcast. It was a lot of fun chatting with you, getting to know you. How can people reach out to you, find you, peel
Yeah.
you for information and help, all that good stuff?
So you'll be at the AT&T store in Walnut Creek downtown if you would like to upgrade your plan.
No, don't find me at AT&T. Also, that was in Fresno. Yes. Go Dogs. um, I'm on LinkedIn, of course. My backslash is KDC, KATIEC. I'm one of the originals. Back when I worked for Bayer Healthcare, got that whole marketing team on board with LinkedIn before it was ever popular, and super proud of that. Or you can email me, katie@airslate.com, if you can figure that out. Good luck to you. And now I am officially on every list. It's okay. I'm 25,000 deep on unreads and growing. I'm very
Oh my
proud of that
God.
number. Can't wait to hit 30K. Don't send me your cadence.
I can't. I don't know how this woman exists.
I don't know how we haven't had her on here sooner. I don't know why.
25,000 unread messages. Oh my gosh. Katie
Most of them are,
Chatterton,
to be
everybody.
fair, most of them are the bump. Have you seen my previous message? Yep, and I
Yeah.
skipped it too.
Yeah.
There you go. Let that be a lesson to all of the prospectors out there. You just heard what it's actually like to be on the receiving end of those. We'll see everybody next time on the Surf and Sales podcast.
Thanks,
Thank
Katie.
you guys so much. It's been so fun.